Hello everybody, Jediwarlock here and welcome back to another episode of WoW Rocks, where I examine some of the most geologically interesting areas in classic WoW. Today, we'll be taking a look at Tanaris, one of the quintessential desert regions on the continent of Kalimdor. I'll be examining the general geography of the zone, going into detail about a few select locations, and combining all the evidence to see how this wasteland could have looked in the distant past. So, with all that being said, let's get right into it and explore the world of Warcraft. Tanaris is a land of many dangers and hardships, but also presents some unique landscapes to travelers in the area. The rolling sand dunes blanket nearly the entire zone, heated by the blazing sun above. The bleached skeletons of many creatures litter the wasteland, reminding adventurers of the zone's dangerous environment. Tanaris is also one of the only zones to feature sandstorms as a weather type, further accentuating the gritty reality of surviving here. Fresh water is a precious commodity, and the goblins of Gadgetzan have attempted to wrangle the harsh landscape by digging wells into the sand, but face conflict with the nearby Wastewander bandits. Ironically, Tanaris is also a coastal zone, with most of the eastern and southern borders brushing up against the Great Sea. The desolate surface of Tanaris belies a different sort of environment below. The bronze dragonflight, led by the immortal Nozdormu, make their home underneath the golden sands within the caverns of time, watching over past, present, and futures. These dragons are not the only ones to take advantage of the shade offered underground, as the insectoid Silithid have also established two main footholds in the region at the Gaping Chasm and the Noxious Lair, spreading like an infection across the lands of southern Kalimdor. While you may have encountered the Silithid before in your travels, this is the first zone to truly emphasize their numbers and importance to the story of classic WoW. Back at the surface, the Sand Fury Trolls of Zul'Farrak are the only remaining faction who could stake claim to the dune-covered land. While these hardy warriors are mostly content with occupying the northwestern reaches of the desert, there are ruins scattered far and wide, bearing the distinct architecture of the trolls, now overrun by the elements. Pirates, ogres, and beasts can also be found roaming parts of this zone, but in such an unforgiving realm, the sand reigns supreme. Before we dive into how this expanse may have looked in the past, let's take a look at a few of the key geologic landmarks. Located in the southwest of Tanaris is Thistle Shrub Valley, a verdant respite of sorts among the endless sand. Some large cacti and elementals live here, both giving us clues as to the nature of the area. According to the lore, this is one of the lowest spots in the entire desert, meaning it could be acting as an underground reservoir of sorts, providing water to these few plants. If only the goblins of Gadgetzan had decided to dig for water here. Alas, it seems the elementals would be less than happy to part with their precious water supply. Farther north, the lonely Sand Sorrow Watch is a bleak outpost for the sand trolls of the area, and could potentially be protecting another of the few water sources in the zone. This small watering hole could be a vital resource for the troll society, especially considering their windswept capital of Zul'Farrak really only features a single ritual pool as a source of water. Completing the quests in this area reveals that the Silithid have infiltrated the tunnels near this watchpost, jeopardizing not only the trolls but all who dwell within this zone. Located centrally within the vast desert, the Broken Pillar is a sand-covered ruin now inhabited by a lone goblin researcher. Centuries of time have eroded the structure, and now we can only speculate about how it may have once looked. Compared to some of the other ruins in the zone, however, it does have some special characteristics. For one, the exposed walls we can see appear to be arranged in a sort of stair-step layout, and given the site's unusual name compared to the other ruins in the zone, I predict there was once some sort of pillar structure at its center, possibly serving as a spiritual site for the trolls. Considering the goblin here speaks of idols to an ancient god that can be found buried in the sand nearby, I think this theory has some weight. Let's finish off this episode by examining the geologic past of Tanaris. What could this landscape have looked like long ago? Well, we know Tanaris has looked like this for a long time, at least since the War of the Shifting Sands 1,000 years ago. Most organic matter that we could use to find clues is gone, but there are a few remaining hints placed throughout the zone. The giant skeletons located here, which resemble creatures like kodos or rhinos, are the most significant. Very large creatures can usually only survive in areas rich in nutrients and resources, meaning, in order to sustain these types of creatures long ago, Tanaris would have needed some more vegetation and likely more water as well. Let us next briefly shine the spotlight on Uldum, one of the most mysterious gateways in all of classic WoW. An ancient Titan facility like Ulduar or Uldamon, Uldum could have been a testing site to manage life on Azeroth. While the Cataclysm revealed Uldum to be a whole separate zone, in the perspective of classic WoW, it seems that Tanaris could, and really should, have once been more green if the Titans were going to conduct experiments on ecosystems and species here. In an interesting combination of geology and history, let's head back to the Broken Pillar and the scattered Hydra idols. Trolls worship animal gods called Loa, which usually reflect the wildlife found in the troll's environment. Hydras, amphibious creatures that usually dwell near water, would have a hard time existing in the current dunescape of Tanaris, which provides even more evidence that when the trolls held a stronger grasp on the region, it could have been a more lush, water-rich environment. While you can eventually fight Gazrilla the Hydra in Zul'Farrak as a secret boss, in my opinion, it's still pretty clear this creature is not in its natural habitat. Speaking of Zul'Farrak, the Sand Trolls have one more piece of information that could be useful. See, before the Sundering tore the world into separate continents, this territory fell under the Gurubashi Troll Empire, composed of jungle and forest troll tribes. One such tribe was known as the Razor Branch, and curiously, this name doesn't appear in the modern time of Warcraft. Conversely, the Sand Fury Trolls, despite having a rich history in the area, are not mentioned as one of the tribes belonging to the ancient empire. It's not hard to imagine that, with the loss of their ecosystem and no more vegetation to support them, the Razor Branch territory slowly deteriorated and the tribe evolved into the Sand Fury Dunestalkers we know in-game. The cherry on top is that this idea was all but confirmed by a Blizzard developer on Twitter, who made it pretty clear that not only did the Sand Fury descend from the Razor Branch, but Tanaris was once more similar to a jungle or forest rather than a desert. When I was researching for this video, I came across this post pretty early on, but I wanted to cover all the in-game clues to see how accurate this claim is compared to the evidence we can gather ourselves. All in all, I'm pretty satisfied with this investigation, and it's really cool to think that this zone could have once been a verdant landscape like Stranglethorn Vale. So, next time you're trekking through the sandy wastes of Tanaris, maybe you'll see them from a different perspective. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed learning about the history and geology of Tanaris in this episode of WoW Rocks. If you did enjoy it, make sure to like the video, comment down below with your thoughts, subscribe to join the Jedi Order, and until next time, may the Force be with you.